Hello guys, welcome to Movie Mind YouTube channel. Today, in this video, I am going to explain to you the full story of the lifelike movie. Let's take a look at the story of this movie without further delay. Toward the beginning of the film, we see a couple bringing an old couch into their apartment. The young lady's name was Sophie. Sophie did all the work and she was about to renovate this couch. Both were content with their wedded life and were consuming a blissful time on earth. Their monetary condition was normal, but the father of Sophie's husband was so rich as he was a businessman. He was a proprietor of a major organization, but due to some reason, Sophie's husband didn't live with his father. Instead, he was going through a blissful time on earth with Sophie. One day, Sophie's husband gets to know that his father has died. He handed down the entirety of his property to his child, that is Sophie's husband. He will run his dad's organization from now on. Therefore, they leave their new way of life and step into the upgraded one. They resided in a little apartment previously, however presently they have a wonderful tremendous house. Be that as it may, Sophie was very little content with this adjustment of her life. The fact that everything changed unexpectedly makes it unusual. Be that as it may, they embraced the situation as they needed to spend their lives like this. Sophie fires 2 workers from the house on the absolute first day. Because they used to do all of the work by themselves and they weren't used to it. Sophie's husband attempts to clear up for her that she shouldn't have done this. She shouldn't have terminated those workers. As this is a major house, so you will not have the option to work alone like previously. We'll require someone for help. We'll require somebody. Sophie says that I am not dependent on this. We ought to take care of our responsibilities all alone. We ought to spend our lives as according by our will. This change impacted Sophie's husband's life too. He needed to deal with the entire organization as every one of the obligations were on his shoulders now. He takes stress analyzing everything. Sophie was also unable to manage all work. Sophie's husband tells this to a young lady in his organization. She says that I have an answer for this issue. A researcher was in his organization and his dad likewise worked in the organization. He made human-like robots. Nobody could figure that these are robots or people. These robots do everything as people do. Because Sophie's husband needed a person who does all the work. He carries Sophie to his organization. He requests that she pick any robot among every one of the robots. Seeing every one of the robots, Sophie is additionally left shocked. They were seeming to be people. They choose to keep a robot with them. The name of that robot was Henry. The maker of these robots guarantees Sophie and husband half that these robots won't hurt you. They are so great and valuable. To demonstrate this, he requests that Henry lick Sophie's husband's shoes. It means they will carry every order of humans whether it's good or bad. It was a point to be noticed, but still, they bring Henry home. Henry showed great execution in his work and he accomplished practically everything in isolation. It helped them a lot. At the point when Sophie's significant other conversed with him, he used to pleasantly answer. In this way, Sophie's husband enjoyed him a lot. Because Henry was perfect and not less than a human to them. Sophie's husband used to share everything with him. From the beginning, Henry appeared to be bizarre to Sophie. Yet, she began loving him with time. She used to invest her time with Henry and read most loved books with him. Henry was likewise exceptionally content with them and became forthcoming with him. As a matter of fact, he was intended to become blissful on the off chance that his proprietor is cheerful. He was made to do his proprietor's requests and make him happy. From the start, Sophie and her husband were upset in their lives, however they felt simple at this point. Then one day, Sophie asks Henry about emotions, love, and human feelings. He explained nicely that what is love, feelings, or human sentiments and the distinction between them. Seeing this, Sophie's husband disallows Henry to enjoy such discussions. Since you accomplish other function admirably. In the wake of venturing into this life, Sophie's husband got this that he was unable to give Sophie much time. Henry noticed many times that Sophie got attached to Henry and is happy with him. He used to feel envious despite realizing that Henry is certainly not a human, however a robot. Yet, he began disdaining Henry. He generally recalled the way that he is a robot, not a human. Sophie considered him a human as he had all the feelings in him like humans. She was truly intrigued by Henry because of this. But Sophie's husband doesn't like this. He tries to explain to his wife that he isn't a human but a robot. Don't let him feel that he's a human because he'll behave exactly as you treat him. In the event that they looked at Henry as a human, he'll begin considering himself a human. But Sophie doesn't agree with her husband, because Henry was perfect like humans. He took care of his responsibilities impeccably and did no missteps as people do. One evening, Sophie hears some noise. She goes to actually take a look at Henry in his place, yet he wasn't there. The entryway was open and Sophie sees that Henry is laying in the nursery. At the point when she goes close to him, she understands that he is dreaming. This thing was new and peculiar in the robots. Sophie's husband awakens him and they take him inside. The following day, they inform the researcher concerning this issue, that Henry went to the garden in the midnight. Consequently, that researcher comes to their home and actually takes a look at Henry. They let them know that it hasn't any issue. This is a little blunder that is typical. This will not repeat. You'll not encounter any protests. Sophie lets the researcher know that I saw him dreaming. On which researcher says that Henry is living with you numerous previous days. Therefore he might have thought of you and some feelings are generated in him. You caused Henry to feel like a human, so he began seeing himself as a human. Hearing this, Sophie's husband ends up being irate with his wife that everything happened as a result of you. You are dealing with him like a human. Thusly that mistake showed up and you'll think of him as a mechanical machine. He doesn't have sentiments. He'll do what we request that he do. However, Sophie didn't think like this about Henry and she won't ever. Both a couple become angry with each other. Therefore, Sophie's husband asks Henry to stay away from his wife. You won't spend time with her. You won't read books with her. Hearing this, Henry asks Sophie's husband, have I done any mix-up? Sophie's husband says that don't argue with me, just follow the command. The following day, Henry tells everything Sophie, so she ends up being irate and goes out. Intelligent Henry explains to Sophie's husband that the issues between you and your wife aren't because of me. This occurred in the wake of entering another life. They didn't remain nearby one another and they couldn't give time to one another. Therefore, Sophie drawn to Henry. She started liking him in spite of knowing that he isn't a human. She continued to think about her. She dreamt of him. Henry was so nice that Sophie's husband also started liking him. He was also attracted to him. One day, when Sophie wasn't at home, Sophie's husband does extremely awful with Henry. Henry feels bad due to this. He doesn't tell this Sophie. He conceals it. Sophie's husband apologizes to her and requests that she return home. But Sophie started like Henry now. At the point when Sophie and Henry were together, Henry fosters a few human sentiments and admits that he cherishes her. Hearing this, Sophie gets anxious and frightened, because he started behaving exactly like humans. She gets thus much afraid that she asks Henry to go back to the place where he came from. Sophie tells her husband that Henry confessed that he loves her. Hearing this, Sophie's husband feels aggressive. He awakens Henry and slaps him. He switches off Henry. Then he calls the researcher to take this robot back as they don't require it now. He has obliterated our lives. But Henry had totally changed. He had recognized that they are going to obliterate him. He demands Sophie not to send him away as he is loving remaining here. Don't destroy me kindly. I acknowledge my error that I said wrong. I'm embarrassed about this. Don't know when he started developing human emotions and he started liking Sophie. She tells Sophie that her husband did wrong with him. Sophie feels exceptionally very bad in the wake of hearing this. Both the couple admit that the two of them got drawn to Henry. They regret over it and they will soon get rid of this robot. They'll spend a decent and basic coexistence then. Then that Synodish comes to bring Henry. But Henry wasn't following the command like before. He say terrible words to the researcher and an enormous mystery is uncovered here. We saw from the beginning that Henry never looked like a robot but looked like a human. Because in fact, he wasn't a robot but a human. Researcher was responsible for this as he calls himself a robot creator. This thing was begun by his dad. He did trials to make human great. He wanted to design him so that he doesn't do any mistakes and obeys all the commands. This experiment wasn't done on robots, but it was being done on alive human beings. They taught them numerous beneficial things. He kept trying to make humans perfect, as he did with Henry. He started brainwashing Henry when he was a kid. He was instructed that he is a robot, not a human, yet was it conceivable to change somebody. At the point when he began living with Sophie and her husband, his humanistic feelings sprung up, like his dreaming and love for Sophie and so on. Sophie and her husband attracted to Henry because he was a human. At the point when police discover this, it takes every one of the individuals from the organization, individuals who were viewed as robots. When that scientist sees his experiment getting destroyed, he becomes mad and crazy. He kills the cops that were coming there to kill him. He additionally attempts to kill Sophie and her husband, yet Henry safeguards them. He kills the researcher. Henry becomes so sad and attempts suicide. He left Sophie and her husband for good. We are shown a scene from a couple of years after the fact. They named that child Henry. They always remembered Henry, however he turned into an eternity memory for them. They needed to keep Henry with them, so they named their child Henry. This is how the movie ends. For such an interesting movie explanation, please subscribe to my channel and activate the bell next to it. Also, if you like this video, don't forget to like and comment. Thanks for watching. See you later in the video.